time for the best coverage of the top stories in sports. The Sports Wrap with Jason Page starts now.
Welcome to this Wednesday edition of the show. So much to do over the next 60 minutes. Damon Bruce will pay us a visit. Sammy Arnell, by the way, is off today, so you won't see him on the show. Damon Bruce will be here, the host of Damon Bruce Plus over on YouTube, former Bay Area sports radio legend. We'll get some thoughts because there are 3 Bay Area sports teams that all have big stories going on around them. The Warriors just had their media day on Tuesday, and there's big news coming out of Golden State with regard to that team and sort of the composition of the team. Couple of moves that happen we'll get into. The Niners. Who's going to be the starting quarterback of that team? We'll talk about that because it could be Mac Jones. It could be Brock Purdy at this point. There's vultures basically swirling around in Santa Clara right now, just hoping that Mac Jones will get an opportunity to be the starter for that team going forward. And then there's the San Francisco Giants, who made a move on the managerial front that could lead to a bigger move on the managerial front. We'll talk about all that with Damon. Nick Ferguson drops by in 10 minutes as well. We'll get some thoughts with him on all things NFL, including the Broncos, as he is in Denver, the former NFL safety with the Broncos. But we start things out in baseball. And look, I mean, let's run through a wild day of wild card baseball on Tuesday and start with the Tigers, who get an amazing effort out of Tariq Skubal, 7 2/3, 14 strikeouts, 3 hits, the 1 earned run. Just a fantastic performance from your likely Cy Young Award winner in the American League, and the Tigers do just enough, and Will Vest is able to hang on for dear life in the 9th with a runner on 3rd and nobody out. The Guardians unable to get Jose Ramirez home, partly because of a base running error from Jose Ramirez, and the Guardians come up short in Game 1 of that series. Now, a lot of people would argue, hey, in a best of 3, the team that gets Game 1 has to be an overwhelming favorite. And while they are, after Tariq Skubal, the pitching becomes very muddy for the Tigers, and that means the Guardians are going to still have a shot in this series. Game 2 in that one today. By the time you see this show, you'll likely know what already happened. The Yankees we'll get to in a moment. But first, some thoughts on the Cubs, who only get, 4+ innings out of Matthew Boyd, and then count on their bullpen, which did a terrific job. And the Cubs get a couple of home runs back-to-back, and they beat the Padres 3-1 in Game 1 of that National League Wild Card Series. But look, you cannot count on throwing starting pitchers out there for 4 1/3 innings and then asking your bullpen, to get the last 14 outs of a playoff game. It is not a tenable situation. You've got to push your starters deeper, which will get us into the Yankees coming up in just a couple of minutes here. Nick Pivetta was fantastic for the Padres in his 5 innings, but again, you turn it over to the bullpen and ask them to get 12 outs. I say this all the time when we have David Hartzma on the show. Bullpen guys are bullpen guys for a reason. They're failed starters. It's Russian roulette. In the baseball sense, to sit there and ask your bullpen to get all those outs. We'll see what happens in Game 2 of that series. A full recap coming up on Thursday. David Ardsma will be here, former big league reliever, will hang out with us on the show. Then there's the Yankees. The Yankees, who thought that 1 run was going to be enough, apparently, when Anthony Volpe hit a home run in the 2nd inning, and the Yankees had a 1-0 lead all the way to the 7th inning. And even 1 out into the 7th inning when Max Fried went out there and was fantastic for 6 1/3 innings of 4 hit ball. He walked 3, struck out 6, and at 102 pitches, Aaron Boone made the decision to go to his bullpen, that vaunted Yankee bullpen, wink, wink, nod, nod, that has struggled so much this season. And what do you get? You get Luke Weaver, who comes in and bombs. The Red Sox tack on another run in the 9th inning off David Bednar, and they take Game 1 from the Yankees, and a fantastic game from Garrett Crochet, who got the extra inning. Max Fried went, 6 1/3. Garrett Crochet went 7 2/3. Max Fried threw 102 pitches. Alex Cora pushed Crochet to 117. If the Yankees get that extra inning out of Max Fried, do they win this game? It's a very fair question to ask of Aaron Boone, who says he has no regrets. But yet again, he was outmanaged by Alex Cora in this game. And what is it with the decision not to play Jazz Chisholm? You got a guy who's 30-30 sitting on the bench in a best-of-3 playoff series? Like, what are we thinking here? The decisions continue to boggle the mind when it comes to Aaron Boone and the Yankees. I have said this all season long. I had hoped they would fail just because they need a new manager. They need somebody that knows how to manage within the game and not just be a nice guy and the good mom to the bad dad, good cop to the bad cop who's going to sit there and always coddle the players. The Yankees need something else. We'll see what they do if their offseason comes sooner than expected. And then the Dodgers and Shohei Ohtani yet again showing up on the biggest stage of all, the baseball postseason. 2 home runs as the Dodgers manhandle the Reds, just maul the Reds into submission 10-5. And look, if you had told Terry Francona you're going to score 5 runs in game 1 with Hunter Green on the mound in Los Angeles after you've struggled to score all season long, Terry Francona would have probably looked at you and said, yeah, we're going to win that game. We're going to win if we score 5 runs. Well, they didn't, because the Dodgers put up double that number. And Ohtani just continues to boggle the mind. The second home run he hit looked like it went about 700 miles. What was the distance on that second Ohtani homer? 454 was the distance on that second home run in front of 50,000 at Dodger Stadium. And Blake Snell was terrific. 7 innings of 2 earned run baseball for Blake Snell. And look, we all figured the Dodgers were going to be able to win this series. They were obviously the overwhelming favorites. And it is a best of 3, and you never know. Maybe the Reds figure out a way to get it to a game 3 and steal game 2. Every game sort of carries its own momentum with it. But 3 of these series, to me, excluding the Dodgers and the Reds, 3 of these series, the other 3 series, feel like they're all destined to go 3 games because they are that close in terms of the talent and the guys on these rosters. It just feels like all 3 of the other series are destined to go to 3 games. We'll see. May come back on Thursday, and I'll be completely wrong. Wouldn't be the first time. And again, David Aardsma on the show tomorrow, former big league reliever and closer, our guy, to talk about all of these series and where we go from here. Who knows? Maybe we'll be talking about some teams moving on and some teams moving on to the offseason. We got a lot more to do on the show. Nick Ferguson, former NFL safety, talks football next. Welcome back to the show. Good to have you all with us. Switch gears and talk some NFL for a couple of segments. Damon Bruce, San Francisco sports radio, former sports radio personality there, now the host of Damon Bruce Plus, will join us a little later on, talk about the Warriors, Giants, and Niners. But Nick Ferguson's here. Look at that. Nick Ferguson, former NFL safety, hanging out with us on this Wednesday edition of the show. I said I'm calling in the reinforcements today. Sam's off. It's just me hanging out. So I'm calling in all my favors today. Nick Ferguson hangs out with us on the show for a couple of segments. All right, so my take on the Broncos was less about the Broncos and more about the Bengals from that Monday night game. And look, the cure for any offense that could be ailing even a little bit is playing teams like the Bengals or the Cowboys at this point. With that said, how much of your takeaway was so gung-ho about the Broncos as much as it was what the Bengals couldn't do, which was basically nothing?
Well, first of all, let me say this. The Broncos got the dub, right? And you play who's on the list, right? Who's on your schedule. And teams go through injuries. It's not our fault that the Bengals had the biggest injury that they could have coming into the season, especially with all the money that they spent this offseason with Joe Burrow, and the Broncos just took full advantage of it. It's almost like playing with kids in a sandbox and being the larger kid and just taking your fair share of the toys. That's exactly what the Broncos did. Defensively, they did exactly what I anticipated that they would do. If you go back to December 2024 when these two teams played, the Broncos had 7 sacks on a better quarterback in Joe Burrow, but it was still one heck of a game because of Joe Burrow. But it tells you that your starting quarterback is not the most important player on the team. And I know it sounds crazy even saying it. Your best player, or the most important player rather, on your team is your backup quarterback. And you only find that out when your starting quarterback gets injured. And right now, looking at the body language of the Cincinnati Bengals players on both sides, especially Jamar Chase, you can see the frustration settling in. And remember, this past offseason, we saw Trey Hendrickson, arguably the best defensive player on the Bengals team, sitting out for most of the offseason because he felt that the organization did not really validate and appreciate his skill set. You know what's going to happen after this season? That player is going to be gone somewhere else. And I mean, if he wanted to come to another team, the Broncos would accept him with open arms. But this is a problem for the Cincinnati Bengals. And when Joe Burrow comes back, they're going to be so far in the back that they're not going to be able to catch up.
Nick, the Broncos right now are the third highest favorites out of 4 teams in the division, as far as Vegas is concerned, to win the AFC West. So they're still clearly not getting the respect that the Chargers and even the Chiefs are at 2-2. Why is that?
Well, it's because you have to earn it. I mean, we can't really look at what your personnel is, and we can't lean on national people to bloviate about how great the Broncos are going to be. This still is a game that has to be played on the field. And that's the thing that's happening in Broncos country. And you could say that it comes twofold because maybe sometimes Broncos fans overreact after a loss, but it's based on expectations. These are expectations some teams around the league would definitely want. I mean, just think about the Colorado Rockies. They would want someone to talk about them about doing something, but they don't get that type of conversation because they haven't proven time and time again that they can actually win. And then also look at how the Broncos lost 2 of their games against the Colts and against the Chargers. Last second field goals. So the mindset is that, you know what? Our defense is going to keep us in the game. We just have to be able to score at least 27 points a game. Is that not doable?
Can I ask you something? If you're the Bengals, do you trade for Jameis Winston at this point? Do you trade? You have to do something. You can't just throw away the season. And right now, based on what this team looks like, with Jake Browning at quarterback, they're basically punting on the season, with which the talent they have seems almost unfathomable, unacceptable to do that to a fan base. If you are in that office with the GM and ownership, are you saying, all right, we can't sit here and wait around until the trade deadline another month when we're 3-5 at that point? We've got to go and do something now.
Well, I mean, you had that conversation, but the Giants now have Jameis Winston's rights. So what is that going to cost you? Maybe a 4th rounder, maybe a 5th rounder. And you got to look at your roster and say, hey, listen, based on the money that we have in our offense and Joe Burrow, T. Higgins, and Jamar Chase, can we afford to give up draft capital, right? You have to think about it. But it's something to consider. And then you say, okay, well, looking at our division the way that it is, Baltimore is 1-3, and they're about to be 1-4 with Lamar Jackson out. Bringing in Winston, will that give us a true opportunity? Or are we just looking to bring him in to be 500? Or is it really going to change our fortune? Because the way that things look for me in that division right now is Mike Tomlin and Arthur Smith and Aaron Rodgers' division. That's what that is. But if you think bringing in Jameis Winston would help you win a couple of games, to be respectful, yeah, then maybe you do it. But let's be totally honest. That's not going to get you to the playoffs. And the damn show is not going to get you to the Super Bowl.
No, but it buys you time while you wait to get Joe Burrow back, hopefully in December. I mean, isn't that the idea right now? It's just to tread water enough to be a factor and steal a wild card spot and then take your chances when you get into the playoffs in what feels like a season where if you just get into the playoffs, you're going to have a chance to win, because I'm not looking at Buffalo or Philadelphia as inevitable.
Well, I don't even think the Bengals are going to get into the playoffs. They're not going to be in the conversation, because even if you were to go get Jameis, you're going to be so far back. Think about the other teams in the conference, not just the division that the Baltimore Ravens, Cincinnati Bengals and the Pittsburgh Steelers find themselves in. I mean, you're going to be so deep and so behind. I mean, you just talked about the Broncos who are now 2-2. You look at the Chargers, look at the Chiefs. Those three teams are going to be there. Then you look at some of the other teams. The Buffalo Bills are definitely going to be there as far as making a lot of noise. So you're asking yourself, well, if we're putting on our goggles and we're trying to look into the future, is that future telling us that, you know what, Jameis is going to win us several games? And I'm going to say the answer to that question is no. I mean, you'll look better offensively, but you're not going to win a lot of games. You know why? Your defense still sinks. Come on, JP.
I don't disagree.
Why am I going to give up draft capital for that? Why?
Fifth round pick?
Okay, you give up a 5th round pick, right? And you bring him in, but that doesn't necessarily mean you're going to win a lot of games because once again, your defense stinks.
And Nick Ferguson knows a thing or two about defense. Former NFL safety's hanging out with us. We're going to do one more segment with him. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back to the show. We continue the conversation on the NFL with our friend Nick Ferguson, former NFL safety. Damon Bruce of Damon Bruce Plus, San Francisco Bay Area sports personality. He'll join us in about 10 minutes. All right, fine. You sold me on the fact that the Bengals should just suck this year and not make any moves. Are you buying that the Chiefs are back based on what you saw against the Ravens, or is this more about the Ravens?
I think it's more about the Baltimore Ravens. And I have to tell you, man, since McDonald left to go to Seattle to be their head coach, that Baltimore Ravens defense looks unrecognizable. I mean, they're giving up so many yards, and I've never seen their secondary, right? I mean, just play so horrible. And this is a game of contact. And when you think about the old Baltimore Ravens, man, you think about so many historic players, Ray Lewis, Ed Reed, and the physicality that they normally bring to the game. I don't even see that anymore. They're unrecognizable, right? If this was my girlfriend, we would have to break up because I don't even know who you are anymore, right? And I would have to ask the question, who have you been hanging around? Who has influenced you? Because you look different. And then knowing as though Lamar Jackson has a hamstring injury. I mean, he's the oil that greases the engine for that particular team, and he's going to be out a couple of games. This is a huge problem for the Baltimore Ravens. And to me, taking shots down the field, they're not doing that. But more importantly, I don't think anyone, even fantasy football owners, never thought that Derrick Henry would have the start of the season like he's had so far with those 3 fumbles.
The Browns are going to Joe Flacco and moving away from him. Dylan Gabriel's going to be the starter now. We saw the Giants turn to Jackson Dart, and you're seeing these teams slowly start to figure out that, okay, the veteran option of Russell Wilson and Joe Flacco isn't going to be the answer for us. Give me a thought on Gabriel getting an opportunity, and does that mean Shedeur Sanders is one step closer to the field if Gabriel struggles?
Yes, he is. And I look at Cleveland and how they screw this up, but we're talking about the Cleveland Browns, of course, and they've become used to screwing this up. Look at how many quarterbacks they've had over the years, but this is a situation where Joe Flacco should have never been in the mix. I mean, just not at all, because even though I know he helped them get to the playoffs against the Houston Texans, but it should have showed them, his skills are diminishing. And in this league, you need mobility. And giving Dylan Gabriel an opportunity, I mean, you drafted him for that purpose. Let's see what the young guy can actually do. And then if you are Shedeur Sanders, you're waiting right there in the wings, which brings me to another, subtopic, because the conversation became, well, Coach Sanders said, well, the Eagles and Baltimore called Shedeur to, for the idea of him joining their team, but he opted not to. And most people are gonna get in an uproar like, why did he not join those 2 organizations?
Are you too good for us?
Right. The idea is that you want to compete. You want to play. Going to Philly to sit behind Jalen Hurts, not going to happen. With the Baltimore Ravens, you had to wait till Lamar gets injured, and we've seen Tyler Huntley do that, before, and it really didn't work out well for him. So to me, now Shedeur has an opportunity. All it takes is for maybe an injury by Dylan Gabriel, or he doesn't play well, and then the Cleveland Browns are going to be like, well, we have to do something. And if the Cleveland Browns don't do anything and insert Shedeur Sanders, if Dylan Gabriel starts to struggle, then that tells you a lot about their front office and their ownership.
How worried should Eagles fans be when, you get A.J. Brown sort of putting out these cryptic tweets or these cryptic social media posts for a team that's 4-0? And granted, it still has its warts, is not obviously a perfect team. How concerned should Eagles fans be right now about the A.J. Brown situation?
Well, I mean, not too concerned because you know who he is. He did this last year when he was reading a book on the sideline, right? And if I'm not mistaken, didn't the Eagles win the Super Bowl, right? So all is well in the city of brotherly love because you already know how volatile this particular player is. And you've experienced this before as an organization with Terrell Owens. So as long as you're winning, no one cares. Some people are going to pout, and that's what we're seeing from A.J. Brown right now. But guess what? He now plays the Denver Broncos, and there's an opportunity, or will be opportunities, for him to catch passes and just put all of this behind him. But when you know who an individual is because they've already shown you, then you know how to deal with it. So this is something that is going to be ongoing. And then I expect it. When you're a wide receiver and you get paid to catch balls and no one is throwing in your direction, you might be a little salty.
Let me ask you something to college football for just a second, because you're in the belly of the beast there with Deion Sanders in Colorado. Is it almost a good thing for this team that in some regards the circus has left town? That it's the attention and the the clamoring for information and all the media and the college game day, that all that stuff is gone. Is it a good thing?
No, I'm not going to say it's a good thing because guess what? It is still around. The only thing about it is that you don't have impact players to bolster up. But the circus, if you will, it is still around because people are still talking about him, right? We're going to talk about Coach Prime because he's Coach Prime and he knows how to sell water to a well. The only problem right now, they're trying to figure out their quarterback position. And I hope the young kid coming in, Juju, that he doesn't listen to other people and decides to leave, because after this season, he will be the guy. And then the circus would only, lift up even more. But we're always going to talk about Coach Prime as long as he's there.
Nick, what has surprised you most so far in college football this year?
Well, the number of teams that were projected to be really high who have lost games. I mean, we've seen Alabama lose to Florida State. We saw Florida State lose to UVA. And it just seems as though it's different from years in the past. Like, we knew who the top 5 teams were going to be consistently because we got that consistent, type of play. But right now, we don't know. By the time we get to the voting for the bowl championship series, things may change and flip-flop yet again. And teams who we thought were out at the very beginning are now going to be at the top. Like this weekend, you're going to have Florida State playing the University of Miami. That's a big game for so many reasons. I mean, because it's an in-state rival, but once again, we're looking at how teams are going to position themselves at the back end. And once again, we got Heisman talk to as well.
And I'll say this, watching coaches get fired, as many as we've seen already this year, that is mid-season. Like, that's it. The patience is gone. We're paying players now, and the expectation levels have changed dramatically. Nick Ferguson, former NFL safety, does a great job. KOA Radio in Denver as well. Catch him there. Always appreciate you, my friend. Have yourself a wonderful day. We'll talk soon.
Talk soon.
We're coming back with more Sports Wrap. Damon Bruce is next. Welcome back to this Wednesday edition of the show. Riding solo today, so I've invited some friends to hang out with me. Talk about a whole litany of things, including this guy. The one and only Damon Bruce. Damon Bruce Plus, YouTube, all your social media platforms. Every time I go on X, in the corner, Damon Bruce pops up. Damon Bruce is live. Damon Bruce is always live.
All I'm telling you is you must be blessing that algorithm. So I thank you very much, Jason. I ask your entire audience to bless it along with YouTube. Come on over. It is the graveyard for discarded broadcasters in the world of radio that no longer exists. So come on by, man. It's always good to see you. How are you, pal?
I'm good. Do you have you figured out the algorithm? Because if you have, I want the secret. I want the secret sauce.
The minute I figure out the algorithm, I will make my money and you will never see me again. I'm not going to try to be Mr. Beast and popular for a year. I'm going to have one good, really profitable month, and then I am out.
That's what I say. So let's talk a bit. There's so much San Francisco news that I said I want to get you on, and I was like, we'll get him on for a second. And then I'm like, I'm going to need a couple here. So let me start with something we talked about on the show yesterday, and that is the managerial situation with the Giants. While there's postseason baseball going on, the Giants aren't taking part in it, but they could be taking part in a sweepstakes for Bruce Bochy, because on the same day Bob Melvin gets let go by the team, after a vote of confidence, by the way, from Buster Posey, good to see how much weight that carried, that they've decided now to let him go. And then later in that night, you get Bruce Bochy being let go by the Rangers, amicably split, it seems. And while they're offering him like an advisor role, I still think he wants to manage. Is it just a fait accompli at this point that he winds up back in San Francisco with Buster Posey?
Find me a drug more powerful than nostalgia. You can't. It's the most powerful drug there is, man. And Bruce Bochy would bring a bucket of nostalgia back with him. And he's still very, very good at what he does. I don't think anybody handles a postseason bullpen better than Bruce Bochy. I think he's still got the touch. The touch that he lost at the end of his San Francisco run had an awful lot more to do with the talent that was no longer in the dugout with him than what Bruce was no longer capable of doing. The talent that's in that dugout right now, we can talk about the validity of it. I mean, is Bruce Bochy going to come back and wave a magic wand in a way that Bob Melvin couldn't to get this team into the postseason? I really don't know.
Can I stop you? Can I stop you, though? Because here's what I'm going to say.
Sure.
If Terry Francona could get this Reds team into the playoffs, you're telling me there's not more talent on the San Francisco Giants than there is on the Cincinnati Reds? Come on.
Hey, look, I know the Reds were kicking it around with the Cubs and the Brewers all year, but the National League West is pretty darn good too. And the Giants just could not keep pace with the Dodgers. They could not keep pace with the Padres, and they had trouble running, sidling up with the Diamondbacks, to be totally honest with you. So it was a bad year, a disappointing year. Posey made the big swing for Rafael Devers, and unfortunately, they didn't play very good baseball right after that trade, and they sort of drowned in that moment. They tried to tread water hard enough to get out of it, and it looked like about a month ago maybe they would, but they didn't. And I don't know how much of that is on actual Bob Melvin. And let me just say, when we're writing the all-time Who's a Good Guy book in baseball, Bob Melvin gets a chapter. This is a gentleman of the game. Bob didn't do anything wrong. He didn't have to go because he was bad for the product. But I do think that Sleepy Bob kind of became his personality, and underachieving has become the hallmark of his teams lately. The overachiever Bob Melvin has not been seen since he left Oakland. Didn't work out in San Diego, didn't work out in San Francisco. Two different teams, two teams with different payrolls, didn't really work out in either place. The sloppiness that we saw just in the last series, you had Jung-Hoo Lee throwing the ball in the stands with 2 outs.
Oh, my God, I saw that. I know.
That's definitely on Jung-Hoo Lee, but it's also on the manager when you've been a little sloppy all year long. So I just thought it was time.
Okay.
It was time. No crime has been committed. He doesn't need to be thrown out and admonished as bad for anything, but it was time to move on. And let's see, Bruce Bochy is very interesting, clearly. And I haven't even started. I mean, look, dude, I'm getting ready for, the Warriors playing, not the next baseball season. I haven't even looked at what managerial options could really be out there, but.
All right. I think it's going to be Bochy. It just feels like you connect all the dots. It just feels that way.
Hey, make it so. If you'd like to have the single easiest to sell to Giant fan manager,
that's it.
No explanation necessary. Ticket prices going up 3% anyways. Beer's another $1, but it's Bruce Bochy again. and it would play well to the audience for sure.
I got 2.5 minutes left in this segment. I'm going to hold you over. I'm going to ask you about the 49ers. Kevin O'Connell or Kyle Shanahan?
Kyle Shanahan. I'll take the guy who goes to Super Bowls.
But I'm just saying in terms of getting the most out of whatever quarterback you want to throw into a system. I mean, we've seen Kevin O'Connell do it now with Sam Darnold and Carson Wentz and any other combination of guys, Kirk Cousins here and there.
Hey, Sam Darnold was a first-round draft pick.
Oh, but come on.
Carson Wentz was a pretty good football player until he forgot how to play football. No, look, I think either way, you got a really good head coach. You got a little bit of a quarterback whisperer. I mean, look what's happened with Brock Purdy. Let's not forget some success that was actually found with C.J. Beathard and Nick Mullins and Jimmy Garoppolo. And, Mac Jones is 2-0 as a starter. In the NFL this year.
Hold that.
I think Kyle, it's easy to dismiss Kyle Shanahan the same way you could said, Phil hasn't won a major, and I don't know if he ever will. I think what we're looking at is Phil Mickelson before the first green jacket when we're looking at Kyle Shanahan.
Hold that thought. More with Damon Bruce on the other side as we continue. Because why not one more segment with Damon Bruce on the show today? San Francisco sports media royalty. You like that? Ray Ratto's gonna burn down my apartment.
Do I get a scepter with that? Do I even get a free ride on Muni with that? But thank you very much, Jason. Appreciate it.
Ray Ratto's coming after me. How is Ray, by the way? You talk to him from time to time.
I have not talked to Ray since our final show together.
Are you kidding?
He's just fallen off the face of the earth. No, Ray Ratto's like Ron Swanson from Parks and Recs. We were workplace adjacent associates more than we were co-hosts.
I figured you would have talked to him at least a couple of times.
He doesn't even return my text, which is,
Stay dry.
Honestly, that's the Ray I want. I want the glorious, beautiful a-hole that is Ray Ratto to be the truth. And he is that guy.
Thank you. That just made my day. All right, real quick. I've got 6 minutes. I want to get your thoughts real quick on the Mac Jones, Brock Purdy dynamic, because there are people saying, hey, Kyle Shanahan wanted Mac Jones. That was his guy.
Was talked into Trey Lance by somebody else.
Oh my God. And so now he's got Mac Jones. Mac Jones would cost a whole heck of a lot less money if he could win and you could somehow get out from under this Brock Purdy deal, which they probably can next year. I mean, is there anything to the idea that if Mac Jones gets another couple starts, plays well, that Brock Purdy could lose his job?
I don't think we have a quarterback controversy here. Now, things do change quickly, and especially in the NFL, but I don't think we're setting up for that. I really don't. Look, Brock's contract right now, today, comes with 0 sticker shock attached to it. And the minute you say, well, we're going to go with Mac Jones, and Mac Jones plays anywhere around what Brock Purdy is playing, guess what you're paying Mac Jones a year from now? The same money that you're paying Brock Purdy. So there is no value saved or added in either way. And again, Brock's number, as big as it is, does not take an exorbitant percentage of the cap and is really preventing business being done around him.
Do you think it's fair? Do you think it's fair the way people have turned this quickly? Are we just so fickle as sports fans? And I don't even say me. Is that what it is? I mean, you have your finger on the pulse of that Bay Area sports scene. Are there fans clamoring for Mac Jones?
There is a percentage of 49er fans which will never be happy with Brock Purdy or Kyle Shanahan until they see them both handing a Lombardi trophy back and forth to each other. At that point, I guess all will be forgiven. Without that, they're both bums who needed to be fired yesterday. Like 20% of the fan base does feel that way. I think about, 1 in 5 Niners fans is almost actively rooting against the good story of Brock Purdy continuing because they just want to get rid of him. And I don't know why, because if we could just silhouette him and put his stats and his wins on just a silhouette, you'd say, yeah, I'll take that guy every single time.
All right.
But Look, everyone is kind of a jerk. Everyone's kind of an expert. Everyone thinks that greatness can be microwaved and served instantly, and that's not how this works. I think that the 49ers are guilty of one thing, not winning a Super Bowl. There are a lot of other football teams who are guiltier of a lot worse things than that.
Fair enough.
They've been pretty damn good. They really have been. And in a year where it all feels like it hasn't even gone very well and they haven't played well and they're hurt, they're 3-1. They're at the top of their division. And there's only 7 teams in the NFC with winning records, and the Niners are one of them.
Okay.
The sky might be a little lower than anyone wants it to be, but the sky is not falling on the 49ers. And again, I think there is a concept out there where they'll actually get healthier a little bit as the year goes along. Obviously, that's not going to apply to Nick Bosa, but I think they're going to get some real talent back. They're going to get a little bit healthier. I think Kittle helps open up a running game that's been a little stuffed up more than any other tight end in the history of football. And I still think the 49ers are going to stumble into 10, 11 wins. And then, I don't think there's any continuity from half to half in these football games, much less from week to week anymore.
Yeah. I agree with you.
Just get in a game and win it. Survive in advance officially comes to the NFL. And I see a wide open league this year. Find me a great team. You can't do it.
No, I said nobody's inevitable, Damon.
No.
Nobody's inevitable.
The Bills feel like the class of the AFC. The Eagles might be the class of the NFC. But it is up for grabs after that, and things can change quickly. So I think it's wide open, and any, early proclamation. Everybody wants to be first. I want to be the first to tell you that Brock's going to be awesome. Well, then I want to be the first to tell you he's going to suck. I want to be the first to tell you that I think the Niners are winning the Super Bowl this year. I'm going to be the first to tell you that they're not even going to the playoffs. You just have way too many people in their emotions, digging into opinions, hoping that they're right more than they're even following the sport and what's actually happening. And I think that is a pox on sports coverage.
I think the Rams are better, though.
They might be. Here's the thing. They might be. They really.
I'm making a proclamation. I think it's the Rams division. The Rams of all the teams that feel steadiest, it feels in that division, it feels like it's the Rams.
I would agree with you. I'd also say that Matthew Stafford is one violent sneeze away from being shut down. When you got a back problem, you got a problem. So everything hangs by the thinnest of wires, it feels like, in this league. And the team that looked like a world beater over the first 2 weeks then ties the Dallas Cowboys. So,
oh my God. Cowboys. Let me tell you, the Cowboys and the Bengals are like mirror images. It's like that Spider-Man cartoon where you see them pointing at one another. That's what it looks like to me. All right, I lied. I'm holding you for one more segment because you went to Warriors Media Day, and I got to ask you about the Warriors and this wild day they had. Couple of interesting signings and a big season ahead. Maybe. We'll talk about it with Damon Bruce.
You want to get weird? I'll take you to Warriors Media Day next. We're going to get weird.
All right, I lied. Why not one more segment with Damon Bruce? I just said that last. I know. I said we're going to have to put you on payroll.
3 for the price of none.
$10.99, man. Let me tell you, I spent 3 years at Sirius. Before it was Sirius XM. Sirius Satellite Radio. I spent 3 years working full-time as $10.99. So don't even get me going.
Nothing says you're a valuable part of the team like constant part-time employment.
Yep. So let me ask you something. You went to Warriors Media Day, and then after Media Day ended, we found out Jonathan Kuminga was signed. The stalemate is over. He gets a 2-year deal. And then the cooler one to me is Seth Curry joining Steph. The two of them playing together.
And I think because of the way that the numbers work out, once they add Melton and Horford, who, again, we didn't get to see at Media Day because they weren't allowed to be announced because this Kuminga deal held up the business of the entire offseason. Yeah, sure. Seth Curry, Steph Curry sounds an awful lot of fun. I'm glad that the Kuminga thing is done. Jason, I've been going to Warriors Media Day for the better part of 20 years. And look, the peak of all Warriors Media Day was that first go around with Kevin Durant. It was like the Super Bowl. I mean, everybody in NBA media, a virtual who's who, was there for that Warriors Media Day when Durant signed, and they were right in the middle of the dynasty, and it was just a monster happening. Yesterday's Media Day, if that was the Super Bowl, yesterday's Media Day was a flag football game. No Lacob, no Kirk Lacob, no Joe Lacob. I didn't even see Steve Kerr. Half the team wasn't even there. It was Draymond. It was Steph. It was Jimmy Butler. I think Pat Spencer might have talked to the media, and that was it. They used to bring in a massive amount of sets to film all of your, in-game commercials about, hey, make sure you listen to the NBC Bay Area Warriors podcast. And here I am, the host, and I'm standing here with Draymond Green, and Draymond's pretending to have a little back and forth with me. And, all those promos that they shoot, they used to build Golden Gate Bridge replicas to do that. They're just all in front of a green screen now, man. I mean, it was like, I didn't know what Warriors Media Day was more representative of. The fact that the dynasty is coming to an end, or the fact that media is just out of money and they just aren't throwing things. I mean, that's the thing. If they're not throwing budgets at NBA coverage anymore, what the hell are we doing? It was so weird. It was so different, which used to, a day that used to be filled with like 300 faces was down to like 55 faces. It was weird, Jason.
But I wonder how many times they're on like national TV this year. I bet you they still get a ton. I don't know. I don't think they get more than like the Knicks.
Oh no, there's more than. I think it's the Warriors and the Lakers are 1 and 2, far and away. They will be all over your national broadcast. Look, nobody puts butts in seats like Steph Curry. I don't care what the Warriors are doing. Steph Curry is the #1 consumed, NBA player I think there is, and he's always worth the price of admission.
Right. By the way, hats off to you. Hats off to you. Knicks, Thunder, boy, the Lakers and the Warriors 34 times. All four of them are exactly the same.
Look, and it could be really interesting. If Team Grandpa can stay healthy a full year of Draymond, Jimmy Butler, Steph Curry, okay, what's that supposed to look like? Is there going to be a lot of time?
Is there going to be a lot of load management with that group?
There has to be, which is why there's got to be a role for Kuminga here. And I don't want to hear about how he doesn't fit in with the team. There's going to be half the season where you got Steph sitting on the bench. That's where Kuminga fits into the plan. How can the Warriors be walking away from one of the young, talented assets that they have? And we'll see what this looks like. Are they setting up to have a really good first half of the year and then, put them on the trade block? What if they're winning a lot of games? Does that kumbaya the situation enough for everyone want to play out the year? And then we'll tear this deal up and we'll do it again in the next offseason. Like, is that what the Warriors are about to do with Kuminga? I really don't know. But I'm telling you, whatever, this has been a spectacular run for the Warriors.
Agreed.
How much longer it can keep going depends on how much you can get out of Steph Curry, Draymond Green, Jimmy Butler, and Al Horford. I mean, that is not a young basketball team, and this league favors youth more than any other league out there. So we'll see what the Warriors got. It should be interesting, but I don't think it's going to be a 5th championship for Steph and company.
Do you still think Curry finishes his career as a Warrior?
Yes, I do think that he believes that there's no amount of winning in another uniform that'll be more valuable to his legacy than remaining a career Warrior. I think Steph sees, the differences between him and LeBron, and that's the biggest one.
Not a final run in the Hornets just for dear old dad.
The Hornets are going to put him in the win column? How?
They're probably not. Listen, I'm in the story. Look, I'm in the story business, Damon.
Here's the deal. If you are going to have the guts to do that, you need a time machine, and you should have done it 2 years ago. You know what, though? If you're selling $42 double tall cocktails at Chase Center, you better have Steph Curry hitting threes.
Are they selling them to you?
I'm not kidding, Jason.
I believe you.
$42 for a double tall whiskey Coke. $42. One cocktail.
You're buying mine then when I come out there this year. That's a good deal.
You're going to have a single, buddy. A single.
Damon Bruce Plus. Catch him on YouTube, all your social media platforms. Thank you, friend.
Thank you, brother. Bon voyage.
That'll wrap it up for this Wednesday edition of the show. Thank you to Damon Bruce. Nick Ferguson, you for watching. Sammy Arnell is back tomorrow, as we all will be, for a Thursday edition of Sports Wrap. We'll see you then.